Hi, Steph.
Hi,
It's so good to see you again.
it's good to see you too.
For those of our viewers who don't yet know you, I just want to say that Stephanie and I have had a long relationship in which I have been so impressed by your courage, your compassion, and your wonderful story of survival. And I'd like you to share that with our listeners tonight. Tell us a little bit about where you are today and how you got there.
Well, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. That was very sweet of you. So I spent 15 plus years of my life going from one unhealthy relationship to another. And my background before that was a very unhealthy family dynamics where there was a lot of arguing, a lot of fighting. Things were swept under the rug and never really talked about. And we moved from one place to another. And there was just never really a sense of peace and calmness in my house. So what I grew up feeling was that love was very uncomfortable. And it became in all my relationships that love was a very uncomfortable place to be. It was not a calm, comforting feeling. So not understanding that, I allowed myself to spend years of my life just with someone who was treating me badly without realizing that I didn't have to deal with that. That was not something.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, was it just one relationship that you were in that didn't treat you well, or were there several?
It was several. It was from one to the other. So it was, I had a 7.5-year relationship with someone and then another 7.5-year relationship. But even in between those, they were also unhealthy relationships. So there was nothing that was really healthy.
What was unhealthy about them?
Well, the first one was pretty good for a while. And then it was my boyfriend, and his father got sick and he completely changed. And he started becoming very verbally aggressive, cursing at me, screaming at me. Then it became more physical, not as much towards me, but as like punching holes around my head, pushing me, holding on to me so that I couldn't move and do things. And so there wasn't huge violence, but there was still enough violence where it should have been huge red flags for me to leave. But I felt badly for him, and I kept trying to help him and fix him. When it was
and did you believe that from your own background that in essence you just move on, you sweep things under the rug, so you're not going to share this with anyone? Wow.
Yeah. And I didn't tell anybody, but I also really just thought, okay, I just have to deal with it. I have to help him. So when I finally did that relationship, because it was killing me, I took time off and thought I had figured everything out, but I hadn't, because I hadn't yet figured out the whole piece about healthy love. So then I started another relationship who ended up being my first husband, and that was the worst of all of them. It was verbally abusive and became physically abusive very quickly. And because I had so much guilt, feeling like I had done something wrong, leaving my ex-boyfriend when he needed someone the most, I felt that I needed to hold on and help this relationship. So even though I knew he was being physically abusive and I knew that he was being verbally abusive towards me, I felt that since I had made a promise to be married and to spend the rest of my life with him, that I had to try to deal with his aggression, even though he pushed me, strangled me, would spit on me, wake me up in the middle of the night and turn the lights on or pull the sheets off, call the police and make up things. He had me followed home from a friend's house once saying that I was drunk driving. And of course but there was a lot of different occasions where he was really trying to push my buttons. And if I ever lost my temper, he would be the first one to say, see, you lose your temper too. And then I would say, he's right, I do. But it would be after pushing and just not letting things go. And so, yeah.
What was the turning point for you? What happened that made you think you've got to stop now?
There were so many different things that were huge warning signs. I was definitely feeling like I didn't want to deal with it anymore. And I was definitely thinking that there had to be more for life. But the big turning point for me was we were back and forth. He was moving out, moving back in, and it was always this back and forth thing because he would do something very aggressive, and I would say, he'd be physically violent, and I would say, okay, you're out. I'm not letting you live here anymore. And then he would leave for a little while. He would say he was working on things, and he would move back in saying everything was great. And then, so this was, I guess, the third time he had moved back in, and he was going to school full time, and I was taking care of the household. I was paying for all the bills and doing everything on my own. And he was supposed to be giving me money to help me pay for bills, but he stopped pretty quickly. And he was working as a waiter. And while he was working as a waiter, I was working, doing some side jobs to make extra money. And he sent me a message that told me while I was working this other job saying, just so you know, I quit my job today. And I said, please, sweetheart, go back and try to get your job back. You said that this was going to be a really lucrative day for you where you were going to make a lot of money today. Please tell them that you lost your temper and that you could, you need to go back. And his response, and excuse me for repeating these words, but this is what he said to me. He said, just like typical cunt bitch Stephanie to not support her husband. And I looked at that text message as I'm working this other job and doing all these different things to try to hold everything together. And I said, you know what? I'm done. And that's the icing. It was the icing on the cake. I said, you know what? I'm doing everything I can and it's not enough. And this is not worth it to me anymore.
So Stephanie, today you're in a great relationship with a beautiful son.
Yes.
And you're helping both men and women come out of difficult, challenging, abusive, terrible, horrific relationships. You're doing really wonderful work. So what advice would you give if there was one thing that you've learned that you'd say to somebody who finds him or herself now in your position? What's the first thing they can do to get help? How can they contact you? What should they do?
Well, first, to just give a little bit of information. So after all of that, I did a lot of work on myself. And just so that the viewers know, I do have a background in crisis counseling. I have an undergraduate in psychology, a double master's in health and education. I now do coaching, like you said. I run Mind and Body Awakenings, and I have actually a team of people that are all there to help in this transformation. So I have a really great group of people. I actually have a book coming out at the end of the year. So all of those things was all the work. And now, and you're right, I'm so lucky now to be able to share the things that I've learned with other people. And it took a lot of work. Had I not done the work on myself, I wouldn't have been where I am. So right. I can really say that
you really get the people that you're helping and they feel it, which is wonderful.
Yes. So I completely understand how difficult it is. But one of the biggest things that I think I have to share with everybody is to say, before you can start a healthy relationship with anybody else, you have to have a healthy relationship with yourself.
Beautiful.
And too often people go from one relationship to another, just like I did, looking for someone to fill in the gaps. And that's not what it is. We're not on a search for our other half necessarily. We're on our search for our whole. So when we're looking for that person that's going to be a good fit for us, it is us that we need to be focused on first. We cannot move on until we fix the cracks that we have in ourselves. And once you learn what healthy love feels like, once you learn how to be your best friend and enjoy time on your own and not be so needy for a relationship, actually love being by yourself and being happy with who you are and comfortable with who you are, the better chance that when you actually attract a person, you'll be attracting another whole person that is also there that can actually help make your life better instead of draining you and pulling you down like I had done for 15 plus years.
Right. So to sum up what you've said, if somebody feels that their relationship is not building them up, that they're being abused, is to seek help for themselves first, not to try and go it alone. You try to help your partners because you thought the fault was really with you, I understand. And the journey really begins with yourself.
Yep. And it really begins with getting help, because if you were able to do it on your own, you would do it. And because of our healthy programming, we haven't learned the proper ways of having a healthy relationship. We don't know. So it's better to have someone who's in a position that you would like to be in to help pull you up. So I get to actually pull people up to where I am, and, to have that team of whoever it is, whether it's me or somebody else, but someone that you feel really comfortable with, that you can share everything with, and that you don't mind listening to advice that they give. Because again, this person can give you advice that you might not give to yourself because you don't know the right answer, because you haven't been wrong.
Right. They're not able to help themselves and they really need a team around them, but they need to reach out to somebody who believes and trusts them.
Yes.
Wow. That's
Exactly.
fantastic. Thank
Exactly.
you so much. Keep up your fantastic, amazing work. I follow you on Facebook and I see what you do. And then, of course, we check in with each other, which is great. And I hear and see even more on a personal basis. So thank you very much for spending the evening with me and sharing your thoughts and your wonderful work with us tonight.
And thank you so much for having me. And hopefully some of this information can be helpful for some of your viewers.
Thank you.